All
right. Well, let's actually do Megillah, Gimel base.
You'd rather do Megillah, huh? Okay. What? Oh, why do I have this in here? In the wrong order. Okay. Here we go. Gimel base. They may not sell a synagogue except under the condition that if they wish, they may repurchase it. This is the opinion of Reb Meir. The comments say, however, that they may sell it permanently and for any purpose except for the following four: use as a bathhouse, a tannery, a mikveh, or a water closet. Reb Yehuda says they may sell it as a courtyard and the purchaser may do as he pleases. They don't say anything about a church here, though.
No, they don't.
Does that come up in a later?
I would guess that that's just like a obviously.
Obviously. Gimel. The Rebbe Yehuda said further, in a synagogue that has been destroyed, one may not offer eulogies therein, twist ropes therein, spread nets therein, spread produce on its roof, or use it as a shortcut for the Torah. Use it as a shortcut for the Torah states, and I shall make desolate your sanctuaries. This implies that they are holy even when they are desolate. If grass grew in the ruins, one may not detach it because of grief. On the first day of Adar, which falls on the Sabbath, we read the portion.
You just finished the sentence there. You may not detach it because?
If grass grew in the ruins, one may not detach it because of grief.
Grief. Thank you.
Grief. Okay. On the first day of Adar, which falls on Shabbos, we read the portion of Shkolem. If it falls on a weekday, we advance the reading of Shkolem to the Shabbos before, and interrupt the reading of the four parshiot on the next Shabbos. On the second Shabbos, we read the portion of Zachor, remember what Amalek did. On the third Shabbos, we read the portion of Para Aduma, the red cow. And on the fourth Shabbos, we read the portion of HaKodesh Hazeh Lechem. This month shall be to you. On the fifth Sabbath, we resume reading the regular order. And for all the following occasions, we interrupt the regular order on Rosh Chodesh, on Hanukkah, on Purim, on public fast, on Mamados, and on Yom Kippur.
Okay. So that's referring to the Monday, Thursday, or Mincha on Shabbos readings that get replaced by the specific readings here. Okay. Now we're going to start going through what are the parshas that we read on special occasions. Pesach, Purim, the parshas Moados Shel Toras Kohanim. So there we read the parsha of the Chagim that's in Toras Kohanim, which is Vayikra. So that's in I think that is Emor. Okay, so that's the Shoro Kesed, yeah. But Teres on Shavuos, that is, you read Parsha of Shiva Shavuos, which is in Devarim. And actually, no, that's not what we read. That's not the halacha. Obviously, we read from Yisro, and read the Aseres Dibros. Berosh Hashanah, Bechodesh Hashvi'i, Be'echad LaChodesh. So you read the parsha from Pinchas. Hold on, no, sorry, I'm wrong. Bechodesh. That's for the Maftir. We read Bechodesh Hashvi'i, but for the main reading, of course, we're reading on Rosh Hashanah the birth of Yitzchak and Yishmael and right. All that stuff. Okay. And Akedas Yitzchak. The Yom Kippurim Achrei Mos, and we read the order of the avoda, which is in Parashas Achrei Mos, which is the halacha that we follow. Yom Tov Harishon Shalachag, on the first Yom Tov of Sukkot, Korin the Parshas Moados Shebetoras Kohanim. Once again, we read the same parsha that we do on Pesach from Vayikra. Ubashar Kol Yemos Hachag beKorbanos Hachag. So that we, of course, we have the maftir from Parshas Pinchas, and for the rest of Sukkot, we also just keep reading the same. The same parsha from Parshas Pinchas, which is all the korbanos of the day. Interestingly, the Mishnah doesn't mention our practice on Pesach of reading all the various different parshas that refer to Pesach on every day. So, right. each of Pesach and Sukkot has their thing that makes things longer or more complicated. On Pesach, you don't have to take lulav and esrog, and you don't have all the Hoshanas and things like that. But you do have long Torah readings every day.
Right.
Whereas in Sukkot, it's a very short laning, but you have all of the
other stuff, right?
All the other stuff. Okay. The Chanukah. So during Hanukkah, you read the parsha Naso with all of the korbanos of the Nasiim. But Purim Vayavo Amalek, you read the parsha at the end of B'Shalach, where Amalek attacks the people. V'Rosh Chodashim, on Rosh Chodesh you read over Rosh Chodshechem from Parshas Pinchas. The Ma'amados b'Maaseh Bereshis, during the Ma'amad, which we've learned about when all of Israel were sitting in their cities, they read Maaseh Bereshis. Betanios, brachos and klalos, and on fast days you read the brachos and klalos. Okay, this is probably talking about the tanios of the tanios of when you have rain, like we learned in the Sefas Tanis. But it may be that we have other. That again, this is not the halacha that we follow, and because on a tanis we read from Parshas Kisisa. With the Hashem, Yud Gimel Midos. Anyway, ein mafsikin b'klaus. When you're reading the curses, either in B'chukosai or in Kisavo, you're not allowed to make a break in the middle, right? Ela kore echad es kulan. One person reads everything, because he wants to start with some positive verses that are tacked on at the beginning and end with some positive verses that are tacked on at the end, because you don't want to end on a negative note, and all the way through it's there's really nowhere good to stop. So on Monday and Thursday and on Shabbos Mincha, you carry on reading according to the upcoming parsha. And that doesn't come off the cheshbon of what has to be read on Shabbos. It's a preview, but you still read the same laning on Shabbos. Shenemar vaydaber Moshe es modeh Hashem el bnei Yisrael. So all of this of what to read in the right time is learned out from the pasuk that Moshe told all the moedim of Hashem to bnei Yisrael. Mitzvah shehu korin kol echad ve'echad bizmano. So it's a mitzvah to read each parsha in the right time as well. So while we have the annual cycle of reading the parashas, when it comes to the moedim themselves, then we should read those things. By the way, he has an interesting question for you. So if that's the case, why on every Shabbos do we not read Ubiyom Shabbos Shnei Kosim B'nei Shana Tzimimim?
Why do we not read?
Why don't we? We should. That should be the maftir every Shabbos.
I don't. Why?
Because it's only 2 psukim.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You can't have an aliyah of only 2 psukim.
No, you have to have 3, at least 3.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's a nice comment here on the Rosh Chodesh about what it says about not interrupting. He says that if one was, it says we can't interrupt because the reading is not interrupted to allow a second person to be called to the Torah. Rather, the curses are read as a single uninterrupted unit. Were one to stop during the reading of the curses, he would appear to despise God's admonitions. Another reason for avoiding each is the interruption is that when a person concludes his Torah reading, he recites a blessing. Following reader recites a blessing prior to the reading. This would result in that 2 people will recite blessings over the curses. And God says, as it were, it is not proper for my children that it should be cursed while I am being blessed.
Ah, interesting. That's a nice drush. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of that subject, that's the subject of our next Mishna. Well, it will be touched on in our next Mishna anyway. It's brachas before and after different readings. Hakor is a Megilla. So the person who's reading Megillah, Omeid v'yoshev, it doesn't matter whether he's standing or sitting. I think just practically it works better to stand because you're breathing more easily and you can project your voice better when you're standing.
Right.
But there's no problem with the reader actually sitting while he's reading it. Kira'ah echad, kira'uhu shnayim, kira'uha shnayim yatza'u. So look, obviously the best thing is for one person to read it at a time. But even if two people read it at the same time, you actually still yotze, which we don't like people to do during the reading of the Torah, because we say two voices are not properly heard.
Right.
But interestingly, Kahati says about this that because people are so anxious to hear the Megillah properly, they'll really focus on the one voice that they want to hear. So it's actually okay, even if they heard it from somebody else.
I've been in shul where they have divided up the Megillah, where one person reads one, next one reads the next chapter. You know, they go on and on.
Right. So that's I mean, that's allowed. Again, it's not. It's probably not ideal, but it's
right.
but it's allowed. Okay, makom shenahagu levarech yivarech, v'shelo levarech lo yivarech. So this is talking only about the bracha afterwards. That there were apparently some places where there was a minhag not to make the bracha after. You know, hadanis dinenu, Rabbi Dinenu, right? I mean, everyone makes a bracha before the Megillah because of the mitzvah. You always have to make that bracha. But this is all according to the minhag makom. So once again, we have many mishnayos all over the place. We say, you know, wherever is the minhag of the place, that's what you do. So returning to the Torah reading, on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos Mincha, you call three people. Ein pochasin ve'ein mosifin aleihen, ve'ein maftirin benabi. Right? You cannot have more, you cannot have less than three people, and you cannot and there's no maftir from Nevi'im on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos Mincha.
So you would never have someone I was like a bracha around. They wouldn't come up to do another one like they do on Shabbos sometimes. They have too many people. You know, if there's a bar mitzvah or something.
So that's going to come up in the later Mishnah, is that actually on Shabbos you can add people. Okay, so actually in the time of the Mishnah, the way that they called people up was that the first person to get an aliyah would make the bracha before, and then he would read himself, because everyone in those times knew how to read, and then he would finish and he wouldn't make a bracha, and then the second person would come up and he would read, and the third one would come up and he would read, and the last person to come up makes the bracha achrona shenasan lanu.
That was only on Shabbos or
so one person at the beginning would make the bracha before, and one person at the end would make the bracha after, and everyone else in between would not be making brachas. And the Chazal decided to change that because if somebody came in late and they heard somebody going up to the Torah and starting to read without making a bracha, then they think, oh, okay, so there's no bracha before the Torah. He thinks that's the first reading and there's no bracha before, or vice versa. When it comes, he leaves early thinking that was the last parasha, and he didn't hear anyone making a bracha, and thinks, okay, there's no bracha achrona. So they instituted that every person who comes up makes a bracha before and after. Okay.
Okay.
Highness.
Water. What did I do? It wasn't attached. Tinus. We have Daled Vav. 5 incidents beheld our ancestors on the 17th of Tammuz and on the 5th of the 9th of Av. On the 17th of Tammuz, the tablets were broken, the continual daily sacrifice was discontinued, and the city wall was breached. Apostomus burned the Torah and placed an image in the sanctuary. The 9th of Av, it was decreed upon our ancestors that they would not enter the land. The temple was destroyed for the first time, and the second time. Beitar was conquered, and the city was plowed under, and therefore when Av begins, we curtail joy. During the weeks of Tisha B'Av, it is forbidden to cut hair or launder clothes. However, on Thursday, it's permitted because of the honor of the Sabbath. On the afternoon before Tisha B'Av, a person may not eat 2 cooked foods, nor may eat 1 meat or drink wine. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says he merely makes some variants. Rabbi Yehuda requires overturning the beds, but the Chachamim did not agree with him. Are they saying over here that on Thursday, in the honor of Shabbos, one can cut their hair before Tisha B'Av?
No. Where'd you see that?
Are we doing that now? During the week of Tisha B'Av is to cut hair or laundry.
So that's only talking about, I think, is that about laundry? Hold on, let me just see that current sheet now that you asked that. If there's a Shabbos after Tisha B'Av. in other words, if that's Shmitzin is Inyan Tisporet. Some people, it says, so I think the Rashi and Bartanera say that this is, first of all, the Heter for Shabbos is only talking about laundry, not about cutting hair. But in our days, Kaiti makes the point that in our days we were machmer on this on laundry from the beginning of Chodesh Av even, and from haircuts, not even from Shiva Sabbath Tammuz. So we're more machmir than the Mishnah here.
Okay. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said Israel had no days as festive as the 15th of Av, and Yom Kippur. For on those days, the maidens of Yerushalayim would go out dressed in white, borrowed garments, and in order not to embarrass one who had none, all the garments worn on these occasions required immersion. The maidens of I didn't know they did that. They did that on what do you call it? On Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, yeah. Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av. Everyone talks about Tu B'Av and forgets about Yom Kippur.
Right.
No, Tu B'Av is like, wow, it's such a fun day. Yeah.
The maidens of Yerushalayim would go out and dance in the vineyards, and what would they say? Young men, lift up your eyes and see what you choose for yourself. Do not consider beauty, consider family. Grace is false and beauty is vain. A woman who fears Hashem, she shall be praised. And it is stated, give her but the fruits of her own hands, and let her be praised in the gates by her very own deeds. Similarly, it was said, go forth and gaze, O daughters of Zion, prime King Shlomo, adorned with the crown his nation made him on the day of his wedding and on the day of his heart's gladness. On the day of his wedding, this is the giving of the Torah, and on the day of his heart's gladness. This is the beginning of the Holy Temple. This building of the Holy Temple may it be rebuilt speedily in our days. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, just thinking.
Yom Kippur, we're in shul from early in the morning till nighttime, and nobody's putting makeup on or anything like that.
Exactly what this looks like. Look, first of all, in the time of the Mishnah, I mean, depending on which part of Mishnah it might have been talking about like where they actually still had the avoda of Yom Kippur going. So maybe that's what it's referring to. Is the time is that time? But still, okay. So everyone's wearing white, yeah. Okay, maybe that was a very old tradition of wearing white.
Oh, right.
So yeah, the same thing with the girls. But it's so funny to think of that. I mean, what does that look like when you have everyone, all the girls, going out into the field and making shidduchim on Yom Kippur? Like everyone's fasting.
Right. I don't understand it.
It's interesting, but that's what the Mishnah says. That it's okay. Tu B'Av, everyone is easy because everyone thinks, oh, that's easy, nice and easy. It's just a regular full day, and this is Yom HaAv.
Right.
But it's funny that's also Yom Kippur because it's like just so goes against the the instincts of what
strange
how we relate to the day.
Strange. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Base test.
Base test. Pepper mills are susceptible to uncleanliness on account of three kinds of utensils. Because of being a utensil, which has a receptacle, and being a metal utensil, and being a utensil used for sifting. A child's cart is susceptible to midrash uncleanliness and may be carried Sabbath, but may not be dragged except over articles. But Yehuda says no object may be dragged except for the cart because it presses. One may not catch fish from a vivarium on Yom Tov, and one may not put food before them, but one may hunt game and fowl from a vivarium, and one may place food before them. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, not in all the vivaria are alike. This is the rule. Whatever needs to be hunted is forbidden, and whatever does not need to be hunted is permitted.
Okay. All right, Pesachim Aleph Daled.
Did you say Pesachim? You did, didn't you?
I did say Pesachim.
Okay, I thought I missed it. Okay, Daled. Aleph Daled. Where Reb Meir says we may eat chumetz the entire fifth hour, and we must burn.
Did you say hummus?
Did I say hummus? I might have said hummus. All right. all right. Only if you're swarty, I guess you could eat the hummus. Rabbi Meir says we may eat chametz the entire 5th hour, and we must burn it on the onset of the 6th hour. Rabbi Yehuda says we may eat chametz the entire 4th hour, but we may suspend it the entire 5th hour, and we must burn it at the onset of the 6th hour. Rabbi Yehuda also said 2 loaves of a Thanksgiving offering, which have become unfit, were placed at the roof of the portico, and as long as they lay there, all the people would eat chametz. But when one was removed, they suspended. They would neither eat nor burn the chametz, but when both were removed, all the people would begin to burn their chametz. Rabbi Gamil says non-consecrated chametz may be eaten the entire 4th hour. Truma, which is chametz, may be eaten the entire 5th hour, and we must burn all chametz at the onset of the 6th hour. Rabbi Kanina, the administrator of the Kohanim, says in all the days of the Kohanim, never did they refrain from burning sacrificial meat that had been contaminated by a secondary tumah, together with sacrificial meat that had been contaminated by a primary tumah. Although by doing so, they added contamination to the contamination. Rabbi Akiva says, saying in all the days of Kohanim, they never did they refrain from lighting oil that had become unfit through contact. The Tevel Yom in a lamp that had been contaminated by a corpse. Although by doing so, they added contamination to its contamination.
Right.
I think I might have told you the story one time that maybe it might have been this Mishna, that they did a survey of college students, mostly graduate students getting master's degrees and so forth. And they asked them if they, what do they think about this Hamas, and some people coming up, nobody was really coming up with Hamas. That's that food that they eat in Israel or something like that. Hummus, Hamas. It was amazing to see how many people didn't know anything. They had no idea at all. It was terrible to see that. These are graduate students. All right, we are doing Kalim or Kalayim?
Kilayim first.
Okay. Yeah. Olive Dalit.
Yes.
As for trees, pears, and wild pears, and quince and sour apples are not kalayim with the other. The apple and crabapple, peaches and almonds, jujubes and lotes, though they resemble one another, are kalayim with the other. Horseradish and radish, mustard and wild mustard, the Greek gourd with Egyptian gourd, are bitter apple. Though they are similar to one to the other, they are kalayim with the other. The wolf and the dog, the wild dog and the fox, goats and deers, mountain goats and ewes, the horse and the mule and the donkeys, the ass and the wild donkey, though they remember one another, are kalayim with one another.
They resemble. Okay. Yep.
They seem to have so much more different kind of foods than we had. Okay. Kalim. So Sanhedrin. Do you want to do Kalim or Sanhedrin?
Kalim Yud Beis Hey.
A nail that one prepared in order to unlock, and the lock with its tummy, with it is tummy. One that is made for surveillance is tahor. A nail that one prepared in order to open a barrel, with it Rabbi Akiva rules a tummy, and the sages rule a tahor. I was told one hardens it. The bar of a money changer is tahor, but Reb Tzadok rules a tummy. There are 3 things that Reb Tzadok rules tummy, and the sages rule tahor: the bar of a money changer, the chest of bean grinders, and the pin of a sundial. Reb Tzadok rules them tummy, and the sages rule them tahor. There are 4 things that Rabbi Gamil rules tummy, and the sages rule tahor: a metal cover of a tenate belonging to householders, and the hanger of shingles, and unfinished metal utensils, and a tray that's split into 2. But the Chachamim agree with Rabbi Gamil in the case of a tray that's split into 2 pieces, one large and one small. The large one is tummy, the other one is tahor. A dinner that became disqualified and one prepared it in order to hang it around a girl's neck is tummy. And likewise, a salad that became disqualified and one prepared it in order to weigh with it is tummy. To what degree may a seller become disqualified, and then it will still be permitted to keep up? The 2 dinners, up to 2 dinners, less than that, it must be cut up with the coin.
Right. There's talking. Remember, in those days, they actually the money was actually the material weight of the coin. So if it wore off, and you had some of the material had worn off, and you now had a lighter coin, it was worthless.
Sanhedrin Aleph K. A tribe, a false prophet, and a Kohen Gadol may not be judged except by the court of 71. A discretionary war may not be waged without the approval of the court of 71. Additions to the city and to the courtyards may be made only with the court of 71. Sanhedrins for the tribes may be appointed only by the court of 71. An apostate town can be so designated only by the court of 71. They cannot designate an apostate town on the border, nor 3, but they may designate 1 or 2. The great Sanhedrin was composed of 71 judges and a lesser one from 23. From where do we know that the greater one was 71? Because it says, gathered to be 70 men from the leaders of Israel, and Moses presided over them. Hence 71. Rabbi Yehuda says 70, and from where do we know that a lesser one is compared to 73? Because it says, and the congregation shall judge, and the congregation shall save. A congregation which judges and a congregation which saves, we thus arrive at 20. And from where do we know that a congregation consists of 10? Because it says, until when the evil congregation, which excludes Yeshua and Caleb. And from where do we know to include another 3? From the implication of which it says, do not follow a majority to convict. I may infer that I should follow them to exonerate. If so, why does it say according to the majority that matter shall be decided? This teaches that the decision to convict is unlike the decision to exonerate. The decision to exonerate turns on the vote of one, while the decision to convict must turn on the vote of 2. But since no court may consist of an even number, we must add another number, and for a total of 23. How many must be in the town to warrant a Sanhedrin? 120. It says Reb Nechemia, 230, corresponding to the officers of the tents. Base Aleph. The Kohen Gadol may judge and be judged. He may testify and he may be testified against. He may perform chalitza, and chalitza may be performed with his wife, and yibum may be performed with his wife. However, he may not perform yibum because it is forbidden to marry a widow. If someone close to him dies, he may not follow the bier. Rather, once they pass from view, he may appear. Where they appear, he must remain concealed from view and goes with them until the entrance of the town. These are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says, he does not leave the temple as it is stated, and from the temple he shall not depart. When he comforts others, it is customary for all people to pass along one after another, and the appointed one places him between himself and the people. When he is comforted by others, all the people say to him, we are your atonement. And he says to them, may you be blessed from heaven. And when they feed him the mourner's meal, all people sit on the ground, and he sits on a stool. Let me see if I have this back here. Let me see.